Get ready, because 2026 is shaping up to be a year of massive, massive change. Seriously, a whole wave of new laws is about to hit, and it's going to reshape everything from your tax return and your paycheck to how businesses operate and even how your personal data is protected. So what does it all mean for you? Well, let's get into it.
So how do we get here? Well, the stage was really set back in 2025. You had a major business reporting rule get completely flipped on its head in March, and then this huge piece of legislation was signed into law on the 4th of July. But the date that really matters for most of us, it's January 1st, 2026. That's when all these new rules officially kick in.
All right, first up, let's talk about the thing that affects pretty much everyone, your money. From the taxes you pay to the money you earn, the financial landscape is getting a pretty significant makeover.
Now, the main engine driving most of these changes is this one single sweeping law. The biggest thing it did was take a lot of the tax cuts from 2017, which were actually about to expire, and it made them permanent. That right there is the #1 reason your 2026 tax return is probably going to look different.
Okay, so here they are, the new federal income tax brackets for 2026. Now, if you look at the percentages, 10%, 12%, 22%, and so on, those are staying the same. What's actually changed are the income levels. They've been nudged up a bit to account for inflation, which means you can earn a little more money before you get bumped into a higher tax bracket. Pretty important stuff.
Now, for the huge number of us who don't itemize our deductions, this is the number that really matters. The standard deduction for a single person is jumping up by $1,100 to $16,100. Basically, it means the first 16 grand of your income is effectively tax-free. That's a big deal.
And hey, for all the families out there, there's another really important update. The child tax credit is also getting a boost. It's going from $2,000 to $2,200 for every qualifying kid. And remember, that's a credit, so it comes directly off your tax bill. Super crucial for parents.
Okay, this next one, look, it isn't going to affect most people, let's be real. But for the people it does affect, it's an absolute game changer. The amount of money you can pass on to your heirs without paying a dime in federal estate tax, it's leaping all the way up to $15 million. This is a fundamental shift in how wealth transfer and estate planning works in America.
But it's not just about what you pay out in taxes, right? It's also about what's coming in. On that same day, January 1st, 2026, a whole bunch of states are raising their minimum wage. You've got places like New York hitting $17 an hour in the city and suburbs, and states like Missouri and Florida reaching that $15 mark. This is going to directly boost the take-home pay for millions of workers. Okay, let's shift gears. We've talked personal finance, now let's jump over to the world of business. Because there's another massive change coming that's going to affect millions of companies. And honestly, it's a complete reversal of a pretty recent rule.
So to get what's happening, you first got to understand this thing called BOI, or Beneficial Ownership Information. This was a rule designed to fight money laundering and other financial crimes. It basically forced a lot of companies to report who their real owners are to FinCEN. That's the government's financial crimes enforcement network.
And the change here is just stark. It's night and day. The old rule, which wasn't even that old, said most U.S. companies had to file this report. The new rule, which actually kicked in back in March of 2025, it says all U.S. companies are now exempt. It's a complete 180-degree turn.
So what's the bottom line here? Well, for millions of American small businesses, this change just wipes a significant piece of federal paperwork right off their plate. For them, it means one less compliance headache to deal with.
Okay, so we've covered your money and we've covered business rules. Now for our third big topic, the ongoing fight for your personal data. And things are about to change in a big way, at least if you live in California.
So on January 1st, 2026, California is launching something called the DROP Act. And the way it works is incredibly simple. If you're a Californian, you'll be able to go to a single state-run website, make one verified request, and boom. That single click legally forces every single registered data broker in the state to delete the personal info they have on you.
And you can just feel the excitement for this online. The reaction shows how much people want this kind of power. Like one Reddit user put it, just perfectly and simply, "Now do the rest of the country, please." It really captures this widespread feeling that these protections should be everywhere. But, not everyone is convinced it's a clear-cut win for privacy. There's some skepticism out there, with people pointing out the irony. As one person said, to get all these companies to delete your data, you first have to hand over your ID to a government website. And for some, that feels more like a trade-off than a total victory.
So we've seen all these individual pieces, big changes to your taxes, to business rules, to data privacy. Now let's just zoom out for a second and look at the big picture. Let's go back to that massive law we talked about earlier and try to understand its broader consequences.
According to the official nonpartisan scorekeeper for Congress, the CBO, this one law is projected to add an estimated $2.8 trillion to the national deficit over the next decade. That number is, without a doubt, a central piece of the debate over the law's long-term effects.
The CBO also looked into how the law might affect different income groups down the road, and their projection for the year 2034 is pretty striking. They forecast that the lowest 10% of earners could actually see their real incomes fall by about 3.1%, while the highest 10% of earners could see their incomes rise by 2.7%.
And this bill goes so far beyond just those tax changes. I mean, it is massive in scope, making huge policy shifts all over the place. For instance, it brings in a 12% cut to Medicaid spending, it dramatically increases funding for immigration enforcement, it starts phasing out a lot of clean energy tax credits, and it expands work requirements for food assistance. Its impact is just incredibly wide-ranging.
So when you put it all together, you've got major tax cuts, you've got significant deregulation for businesses, brand new data privacy rights, and huge shifts in government spending, all hitting at once. It really all boils down to one central critical question. When the rules of the game change this much and this fast, who ends up being the biggest winners and who gets left behind?